We were able to use the parts from the Americans' M2 tank to fix up and upgrade the destroyed enemy M3 from our last battle. Even though it needed to use much of the parts from the M2 to get it up and running again, it was nice to be able to now have a slightly stronger tank and gun on our side. After our victory, we decided to give our group a name. A name that will hopefully represent one that many can know it will bring peace and hope for all that hear it. The name was the Muffins. It was hated by the Russians, but the Americans loved it as they liked the name we gave our tank, and we agreed we all like pastries. After a few laughs and eye rolls from the Russians, we kept moving toward the location where the Russians said their other group of friends might be. We still had about a day of travel when we came upon the ruins. We started to see what looked like a field of more destroyed tanks that lay waste from an unknown battle that might have recently took place, as smoke still arose from some of the larger wrecked vehicles. None of them seemed operational, and we didn't have the parts to get any of them up and running again. Just then, the screech of tank tracks from a larger tank was heard coming toward us in the distance. We rolled behind some of the wrecked vehicles and tried to hide. We listened as the sound of multiple tanks started to come our way. It no longer just sounded like one, but many. The fear of knowing what could have happened here might be the result of who was coming toward us, but we couldn't be sure. One of the tanks passed right by us, and between the area our group tried hiding. Another tank stopped off to another side, as you could see a commander looking around to get eyes on anything around them. Two other tanks rolled closer to us and also stopped. We couldn't tell, but a total of 7 tanks was reported from our group that had approached and stopped all around us. We waited under the intense fear, hoping they would soon decide to move on and pass by without noticing us. A commander's voice yelled from one of the tanks announcing another victory for the Black Plague, and that all who decide to stand in their way will fall if they decide not to join. They talked about their will to reestablish the order that had once dissolved during the fall. Just then, the order was given for them to head out and meet up with another division. "How big is this group?" one of our family members whispered. The sound of their engines began to roar as they rolled out to continue on their way to spread more destruction and fear over the land. It was now clear firsthand this might become a bigger problem if someone didn't do something. But who? It seemed like every group we've seen so far that have come across them has either fallen or have joined them. Their tanks disappear in the distance as the Russians say in anger that we would be the ones, and that nothing would change if we also didn't eventually take a stand. We continued on our way. The more we thought about our vision for peace and hope, the more it seemed almost distant and out of reach, with the Black Plague among us and growing more. After what seemed like days of travel, we finally start to see the destination of our location we had been looking for. We look on intensely to see any sight of the friends the Russians had said would be here. The sight of a group of tanks starts to come into view as we draw nigh to the guarded area. We pass a tank on watch while the Russians give them a nod as they nod back in sync that they knew who they were. We proceeded to the center of the area where a group of tanks was parked to meet them. We were welcomed as the sight of the once before seen KV we had fought at Melnikova comes into view. A feeling of shock takes us and the Americans back as the KV starts to realize and remember who we are, and they begin to take aim on us. Our Russian friends stop the KV while exclaiming we are friends. But the crew inside the KV comes out in rage to tell a different story of our previous encounter and the death of their friends in the A-20. The group looks at the Americans and us as the intensity in the air begins to grow and be felt around us. But where would this leave us between our Russian family we had traveled and fought with? What would happen to us now knowing we were the result of killing one of their own? Where would this lead us between our hope in finding peace and those that stood around us?